Welcome back to another video of my series of finding lore in FNAF games. Today we are squeezing out as much lore in FNAF 3 and FNAF 4, and let's just say there are so many new events that we can add to the timeline. If you haven't heard of the timeline or the series, I recommend watching the first video of the series, which explains FNAF 1 and FNAF 2. However, if you want a recap of the timeline, this is basically a summarized version. In 1972, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened and was then closed before 1987. Also, the MCI and the puppet killing child incident happened, which closed the pizzeria down for good. There was also another pizzeria / diner called Fredbear's Family Diner, which we don't have much information on, except it was the FNAF 2 pizzeria. In 1987, FNAF 2 happened, and you know what happened in FNAF 2, and the DCI also happened. After FNAF 2 closes, another Freddy Fazbear's Pizzas opens again, but closes for good in 1992, when FNAF 1 happened. However, we will find out more about Fredbear's Family Diner and more animatronics that we can add to the Freddy gang. So sit back and relax as we dive into cracking FNAF 3 and 4. FNAF 2 was an interesting game, which was also jam-packed with minigame lore, but had more of a standoff between the Night God and Springtrap. And we found out a whole new type of animatronics, Springlock suits. So let's start with the many types of lore we can find, which is the minigames. The minigames, aside from the night cutscene and the Happiest Day minigames, and I think I can explain that using the Happiest Day minigame. The kid being given the cake is clearly the Golden Freddy kid, since we don't know any other Golden Freddy kid. Am I right? All the MCI and puppet kids are given cake, as there are 6 kids for 6 minigames. In this case, puppet is Shadow Bonnie. But now, let's explain the end of night cutscenes. These cutscenes basically show Purple Guy destroying all the FNAF 1 animatronics and then gets Springlocked, explained by Phone Guy, and becoming Springtrap, the antagonist of FNAF 3. This again could still be our Mike Schmidt from FNAF 1, since it does say tampering with the animatronics. And I suppose all the kids are finally happily released, which is quite happy, the good ending. Now it seems to us that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza likely the 1972 to 1987 one, as there was no mention of Springlocks in the last 2 pizzerias being active, meaning that during this period, Springlock suits were our favorite characters. However, that cannot be the case due to the fact that the numbers don't exactly line up. 2 suits versus 5. And that's even worse when you take into account that Spring Bonnie is probably one of the suits. Now, game-wise, Fazbear Fights, what we are playing in, ends up burning down. However, the person who wanted to destroy Springtrap failed since he survived. So who is this Night God? Well, it can't be Mike because he is likely Springtrap. So the Night God just has to be some random god we can't find out, unfortunately. However, the FNAF 2 and 1 animatronics are just hallucinations of the god we play as, which links us way closer to Mike Schmidt. Now let's find out the actual date of FNAF 3, which is simple. 1992 plus 30, since it says 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed. And the date is 2022. FNAF 4 equals new lore that we have never seen in the series, so it is quite confusing. It was actually one of my scariest games, one of the scariest games I played, and it's one that I've never kind of beaten. So how about we squeeze out lore of this one? The only lore we can probably get is the Bite of 83, which is in the minigames, which is a kid, the crying child crying every day until the Bite of 3 happens. And his bullies, one of them being his brother, who wears the Foxy mask, who doesn't have any connection to anyone we have known yet. However, this place is clearly Fredbear's Family Diner, as it gives us a reason to give Golden Freddy or Fredbear a place to be in, as it is not in the Freddy gang, and it does say Fredbear and Friends, hinting Fredbear. And it also clearly says Fredbear's Family Diner in the game. Since FNAF 4 probably happened in 1983 due to the TV ad, we can comfortably say that Fredbear's Family Diner opened but closed definitely in 1983. And we can possibly see Mike as the dad. That's just so out of context, but anyways, we could add a lot more. Now, obviously, more information was given via the books, but we could do that after we cover every single game. However, if you want FNAF World to be covered, then do this. Share this to as many people as possible and get this video to 100 likes and watch this video 100 times. That will really help my channel. You can clearly see the hate I have for FNAF World. However, that's really all the lore I can find. But what about the toys? They look exactly like the toy animatronics in FNAF 2. Well, what that is because the toy animatronics are actually designed of the toys that Fazbear Entertainment sells. Due to the fact that there are rumors of someone possessing an animatronic, we can safely say that the puppet child was killed before Fazbear's Family Diner closed. So how about we put together a timeline? 1972, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza holding the Wizards opens. It is also possible that Fazbear's Family Diner opened this year, but however it is definitely opened sometime before 1983. And the main difference was the fact that the humans could wear animatronics, which was called spring-lock suits. Possibly in 1983, at Fazbear's Family Diner, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a child was killed by Mike, who went on to possess the puppet. In 1983, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed due to the crying child being the victim of the bite of 83. Later on, likely in the same year as the MCI happened, where Mike Schmitz kills 5 children and the puppet stuffs them into Freddy gang suits, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy and Golden Freddy / Fredbear. This closed down Freddy Fazbear's Pizza until 1987 when a new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened. This is when a night guard named Jeremy Fitzgerald gets bit by an animatronic, creating the infamous bite of 87. And the DCI happens where Mike kills another 5 kids. However, we don't know where the kids end up possessing, if they possess anything at all. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed down again. However, another one opened but closed down in 1992 due to just no public interaction with the location. However, one thing does happen. Mike destroys all the animatronics with the... Mike destroys all the animatronics with the location. However, Mike destroys all the location, but the souls lure him into the safe room, where he puts on the spring body suit. However, it was raining that fateful day, and the spring blocks dug into his body. Mike Schmidt had become Springtrap. 30 years later, in 2022, Fazbear Fights opened. An unknown god takes the shift, but is so annoyed about Springtrap that he burns the place down. However, things don't end there, because Springtrap survived. The FNAF 3 Night God situation can't be explained using only information from FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 itself, because the best candidate is Springtrap. Springtrap was Springtrap. Well, that's it from Bird Springtrap. 3 Springtraps in a row. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. Please like and subscribe to get me to 100 subscribers.